Okay, now, how do I know I'm going to have more than one answer? Well, just like we did when our answers were exact answers, we know that the sign is positive in quadrants 1 and 2. So what we've been doing this whole time is if I now draw this 14.5 degree, which is really 0.25 radians over here, we're looking for what is that angle measure now from here to here. Because remember, this one is 0.25 radians, but we need to know the radians from there to there. And that's what we've been doing. So what happens is there's a couple different ways you can do this. But what I do is I know in radians that this is 0 or 2 pi, and that over here is pi radians. So since I want your answer in radians, I'm going to do pi minus this gap. So it's almost like saying 180 degrees minus 14.5 degrees. Well, 180 minus 14.5 is, so this is literally a 165.5 degree angle, but we need our answer in radians. So instead of trying to convert, the best way is instead of doing 180 minus the degree, let's do pi minus this gap, and you can round, so right, 3.14 minus 0.25 is about 2.89 radians. So therefore, the two answers are x is about 0.25 radians, and I'm just going to write that down, I think it helps students understand, and 2.89 radians. So it really helps, and I'm not going to give you a lot of these on your homework right now, but I think it helps to draw this visual and really use that calculator to see, ooh, what would it be in radian mode and degree mode to help visualize what that is on the unit circle, okay? So same thing that we've been doing, except for it's not going to be, you know, an interval of 30 degrees, 60 degrees, and so on. It was 14.5, and that is definitely new to us, okay? All right, so what we did on the front is we learned how to use these inverse, our identity. So just kind of looking back really quickly, we learned in 1, 2, 3, and 4 how to really get the problem started. It does involve thinking. It's not going to be something that you do super quick. And then here we really kind of flash back to how to solve using just algebra, getting, you know, all the sine x's on one side and getting sine x by itself. But then we really had to use our calculator, and I know this is not the most comfortable, but you know these are radians, okay? Well, the last way that we have to be able to solve a quadratic, in a sense, trig equation is with that quadratic formula. And that's why a couple weeks ago, or whenever we last did a weekly math, I asked you to solve a problem with that quadratic formula. And when you did problems such as 5x squared minus 4x minus 3 equals 0, what happens is to quickly see if this factors, we can do this x method, where 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. And so we're looking for two numbers that give us a product of negative 15 and a sum of negative 4. Well, 3 and 5, any combination aren't going to work. 1 and 15. So the key thing here is that this quadratic polynomial does not factor. And so what happened is you were able to then do x equals, and kind of a catch-all was this quadratic formula. And this is the quadratic formula. So it allows you to find the x-intercepts, which is what we're doing here every time we solve. And it was this kind of was a catch-all. You could use this anytime. So I guess technically you could use it for quadratic, but it doesn't give you those exact answers that factoring does. So if you've noticed, I use this polynomial to mimic this one. So if I would move this over, I have 5 cosine squared of x minus 4 cosine of x minus 3. And remember, I know this is not the same, but you can see if this isn't going to factor, well then I'm going to do the same thing here. This is not going to factor. So this is why our only option really is to use that quadratic formula. So what that means is instead of having x equals, remember we're trying to get cosine of x. So the cosine of x equals negative b plus or minus, and I'm just going to rewrite this one more time. You don't have to. You might already be able to fill in. But remember, these values are a is 5, b is negative 4, and c is negative 3. So let's go ahead, and so the cosine of x is equal to, I'm going to go ahead and plug those numbers in. So we have negative, and then our b is negative 4, plus or minus negative 4 squared minus 4 times the a value times the c value, all over 2 times the a value. Now you might want to pause this for a minute and just make sure that you are simplifying this, and then turn it back on to see if you're doing okay with that.